Trump just proposed the largest military budget in U.S. history, $1.5 trillion. Defense stocks should be surging. They're down 16% from their March high. There's a reason for that, and it explains exactly which companies win from this budget and which ones don't. Check this out.
The president just proposed the largest military budget in American history, $1.5 trillion, 42% more than the current Pentagon budget. More shipbuilding money than any administration since Franklin Roosevelt built the fleet that won World War II. The same week, he signed an executive order threatening to ban every defense contractor in America from paying dividends or buying back stock until they speed up production. He singled out Raytheon by name on Truth Social, called them the least responsive to the needs of the Department of War, and said they'd be cut off from government contracts entirely if they didn't get their act together. $1.5 trillion with one hand, a threat to fire the industry with the other. Defense stocks are down 16% from their March high during an active war. With the largest budget ever proposed sitting on the table, something doesn't add up. By the end of this video, it will. And what you'll see is that even inside a downturn, the money still flows somewhere. It always does. The question is whether you understand where. Three forces hit the defense sector at the same time, and the financial press connected none of them clearly. First, the executive order. This wasn't a social media rant. Trump signed an actual order on January 7th banning defense contractors from stock buybacks and dividend payments until they improve production and delivery. The order requires that all future contracts include a provision prohibiting buybacks, executive compensation capped at current levels until output improves. Lockheed dropped 4.8% in one session. Northrop dropped 5.5%. General Dynamics dropped 3.6%. RTX dropped 2.5%. The entire sector repriced overnight on the threat that the president would punish the companies. Second, the broader market sell-off swamped everything. When tariffs triggered a decline across the board, institutional investors sold their winners to cover losses elsewhere. Defense was a winner. It got sold. Not because defense was wrong, because when everything needs to be liquidated, the things that went up get sold first. Third, existing contracts compress margins. The $1.5 trillion is future revenue. Current earnings are running on older cost-plus contracts. The market sold the earnings it can see today and hasn't priced the revenue it can't see yet. The budget is the catalyst. The market is trading the lag. The sell-off was not a signal that defense is wrong. It was a signal that the market hasn't figured out which part of defense is right. $1.5 trillion is a headline. What the headline buys is the real information. The allocation inside this budget is more lopsided than anything in decades. Missiles, the single biggest winner. 785 Tomahawk cruise missiles requested for fiscal year 2027. Last year, Congress funded 55. That's a 14 times increase in a single year. Not a percentage bump, 14 times. 821 JASSM air-launched cruise missiles, more than double. AIM-260 air-to-air missiles, $2.94 billion in procurement, up from $894 million. This is not a policy preference. Every missile fired in Operation Epic Fury must be replaced. The inventory is physically depleted. The orders are not optional. Shipbuilding, $65.8 billion. Up from $27.2 billion last year, more than doubled. 34 ships, including 18 Battle Force ships. In the first funding for the Trump-class battleship, the largest shipbuilding commitment since Roosevelt's wartime procurement, Golden Dome, $17.5 billion for a missile defense system scaled to cover the continental United States. New program, no existing production line, over 1,000 vendors already in the contracting pool. The contracts haven't been awarded yet. F-35 fighters, 85 requested, nearly doubled. The F-47 sixth-generation fighter got $5 billion, $1.5 billion more than last year. Space Force budget jumped nearly 80%, from $40 billion to $71.2 billion. The money isn't going everywhere. It's going to missiles and ships. The person who bought a defense ETF thinking the whole sector wins equally, they're holding companies that build things this budget isn't buying at the same weight as companies that build things it is, RTX. The Raytheon division makes Tomahawk cruise missiles, 785 of them ordered for next year versus 55 last year. Raytheon also makes the PAC-3 missile interceptor, a core component of the Golden Dome program. Raytheon also makes the PAC-3 missile interceptor, a core component of the Golden Dome program. The same company Trump publicly threatened to cut off. The threat was about stock buybacks. The procurement is about wartime restocking. Both things are true at the same time. The stock is caught between a political headline and an industrial reality.
Hey, real quick, if I could jump in, genuinely important break. When trillion-dollar budgets are shifting and markets are repricing war risk, knowing how to preserve and position your purchasing power matters more than picking the right ticker. The Bitcoin and Security Bundle covers how to do that safely without getting taken by a scammer or trapped in a bad trade. Grab it while it's on sale. Links down below. Now let's dive right back into the video.
General Dynamics, Virginia-class submarines. The shipbuilding budget more than doubled. They're the primary builder. Huntington Ingalls, Columbia-class ballistic missile submarines, most major surface combatants, the Trump-class battleship. $65 billion in ship orders flows primarily through two companies, and this is one of them, Lockheed Martin. 85 F-35s, nearly double. They also make the JASSM missile that more than doubled in the budget. And the F-47, four companies sitting directly in the path of where $1.5 trillion actually flows. Because the budget named what it's buying, and there aren't others that make those things, Tomahawks come from one production line. Virginia-class submarines come from one shipyard. The budget doesn't choose favorites. The industrial base does. There are only so many companies that can build a submarine. Now the hidden story. Northrop Grumman makes the B-21 Raider, the most advanced stealth bomber ever built, the crown jewel of Northrop's portfolio. The reason most investors who own Northrop own it. The B-21 budget, $2.86 billion, a 6% increase on research funding, essentially flat, while everything around it doubled. UBS flagged it explicitly. Northrop Grumman is a relative loser in this budget. This is a missile and ship budget, not a stealth bomber budget. The person who owns Northrop thinking defense wins across the board is correct that defense wins. They have the wrong piece of it. The sector is right. The allocation doesn't match their position. And the difference between the companies sitting in the path of this budget and the ones sitting adjacent to it won't be explained by whether defense spending is rising. It'll be explained by what the budget is actually buying. Here's the mechanism that most people are missing entirely. The budget has to pass Congress by September 30th. That's the clock on the headline number. $350 billion of it goes through reconciliation. Republicans can pass it alone. $1.1 trillion goes through regular appropriations, needs bipartisan support. If reconciliation stalls, the headline shrinks. $350 billion of it goes through reconciliation. Republicans can pass it alone. $1.1 trillion goes through regular appropriations, needs bipartisan support. If reconciliation stalls, the headline shrinks. But the replacement orders don't wait for Congress. Melius analyst Scott Mikus said it directly. Given the need to replace missiles, missile interceptors, damaged radars, aircraft, that procurement is happening right now at current budget levels, before $1.5 trillion is approved. Every Tomahawk fired over the strait needs to be replaced. Every radar damaged needs repair. Those are purchase orders running right now. Those are purchase orders for products that exist, placed with the companies that make them, running right now. The budget is the headline. The replacement cycle is the mechanism already in motion. The underlying procurement is a current event. It's happening now. Everyone watching the market right now sees a downturn. They see red. They see the ceasefire wobbling and the indexes falling. The market is scared. And inside that same market, $1.5 trillion is being allocated. Production lines are running, shipyards are hiring. The money doesn't stop flowing because the market is scared. It flows to different places than it did before the war started. Every downturn in history had people who panicked and sold everything. And every downturn had people who studied where the capital was actually moving and positioned before the headlines caught up. Not by guessing, by reading the budget, by understanding the allocation, by knowing what's being built and who builds it. Different information. The person watching the defense ETF fall 16% sees a loss. The person reading the line items inside 1.5 trillion sees something completely different. Same market, same war, same downturn, different information. And the gap between those two people, the one watching the headline and the one reading the allocation, that gap is where the opportunity lives in every single downturn, including this one. $1.5 trillion, the largest defense budget in American history. 14 times more Tomahawks than last year, double the ships, double the fighters, 80% more for space, and a B-21 program that got a rounding error while everything around it surged. The money is moving right now. The question isn't whether the downturn is real. It is. The question is whether you're watching the right thing inside it.